Hey y'all, this is Cindy. I'm the Tireless Tangler, and you've arrived at day 98 of the 100 Days of Zentangle Project 2020. Thank you guys so much for being with me for the last 98 days. Today's tangle is going to be FLEAVY. It is by Hanny Nura Waldburger. She is the first CZT in Switzerland and in der Schweiz. Und wir danken ihr dafür. Also, let's get back into English before I lose somebody. All right, let's get started with this. This is a pretty cute little organic ribbon style tangle, and there's lots of things we can do. Maybe not lots of things, but it has its possibilities for sure. So something I want to explore today. So let's get started. So my boys are being rambunctious in the background, and we are going to step this out. All right. So FLEAVY starts with a line that can look however you like it. It can be straight, it can be curvy. Do whatever makes your heart happy. Of course, mine is going to be curvy because that's how we roll. All right. So now we're going to put some little flux-shaped leaves on here, if you will. This is not representational at all. However, they remind me of leaves, so that's what I'm going with. And you can put them on both sides. You can change where they are placed. But for this demonstration, I'm going to place them on opposite sides from each other. And you want these to poke out. You don't want to make them too close into the line. Like this. Yeah. And I think I'll put maybe one more set up here. Now, this tangle is about aura lines, okay? And this, of course, is something that is very difficult for me. People with shaking, I'm assuming I'm not the only one with this trouble. It's hard for us to get our aura lines to go directly where we want them. It's also difficult for us when we come to things to get them to start the right way on the other side. So we're going to try this. With the caution that we want them to come directly to the same place. Now, depending on how you draw these, pushing out or pulling in, you can do these differently. Pick whatever way is the most comfortable for you. And for some reason, I'm really struggling with the pushing out today. So I probably will be pulling in. We'll see. Well, see, on this side, I want to push out. I don't know. But whatever way you decide to do these, you want to be sure that these lines continue in their position on each side of your little leaf shapes, okay? So not hard, right? Let me reposition this at the danger of being yelled at by someone. Okay, so this is where we're at. So we've got lines, aura lines, and little leaf shapes. Let's do another row. So on the next row up, and maybe I made these too close to the top. We're going to turn these. I'm going to put another set, and I'm going to start right on top on the line of this leaf, right? And so on the other side, exactly on top, where the line and leaf come together. Okay? So now down here, I think you're going to be able to see better. Where this line and the top of the leaf come together, that's where we're going to start our next one out. Okay? And then on this other side, like so. And down here, the same. You can stop these whenever you want. Stop adding them whenever you want. Or you can keep going and keep adding them, which is something that I hadn't thought of, and I may try at some point. Probably not today, but we'll see. Sweetie, is that all the play he got? Okay, so each layer you add a leaf and you add the aura. And if we would like to be non-representational when describing this, I would say add the line, add the flux shape, and then add another line or aura. They just remind me of leaves, what can I say? So I'm going to stop adding up here because clearly I don't have any room for that, but I'm going to add a couple more here. And like I said, you can stop at any time you want to. If you think 2 is enough, if you want to stop with 1, whatever you want to do is fine. I'm just sort of going to follow this out, see what happens, give you an idea of what more looks like as opposed to fewer. And now I'm going to add my aura lines on each side. Oh, that one got a little out of control. And again, you want line consistency, which again is the thing that I struggle most with. Excuse me. Okay, and another aura line over here. So this is a very difficult pattern for me to get a nice result from, but we are going to try it today because I like to challenge us sometimes. Now, I am curious to know what this is like if we completely line out on one side and cover up some of these little leaves as far as... So what I'm going to do is stop drawing in leaf shapes, and I'm going to put a couple more aura lines in and see what happens. Right. This is the pattern. And you can stop, like I say, stop or start with lines and flux shapes anytime you want. But I'm going to do this as an experimentation to see how this is going to look. So I'm just curious and I want to know. Okay, let's do one more line. I kind of like the hole sticking out to the side. I think it makes it look more organic. However, I'm also, I'm also curious to know what that's going to look like on the inside. So I just added this. I'm going to leave this side the way it's supposed to be, or I shouldn't say that. I'm going to leave this side the way it is in the step out and do this over here. Then I'm going to do a little bit of shading. And if you guys will indulge me, I can't put flux in without this. So it's making me crazy. I just have to. I have to see how it'll look. I may change my mind later. This is a personal problem. You do not have to do this. But it's fun. I think it enhances this a little bit. But again, I always think that about flux. So probably Maria Thomas would probably laugh at this because she giggles at Rick Roberts, whose flux version this is, about his need to add these little lines and dots on these. Anyway, okay. So this is FLEAVY. Let's do a little bit of shading experimentation and see what we end up with. All right. So I think the first thing that this makes me want to do is to shade on the underside. And of course that's subjective, the underside, I mean. is subjective, since these are not supposed to have an upside down or a, you know. Ooh, I just had another thought. Guys, what if we did the center line and we did one side up and then turned the tile and did the flux shapes coming out on the other side going down? Oh, I'm going to have to try that on the tile. That's going to be awesome. Okay. I got a little excited there, didn't I? Every now and then I get a good idea. I think that's going to be an interesting one. We'll see. So I'm just going to add some color here around these elements that we've got coming out. Just to give them a little depth in there, to make them look a little bit more realistic, more 3D. Most of you know what a big difference shading makes to your tangling. And I know I have some in here in this group that watch these videos that are into alcohol markers and do some tangling with those. And so for Chris and some of the others in the audience that do that, I would suggest that you invest in some gray Copics. Either they have both cool gray and warm gray, and or in whatever brand of alcohol markers you use. I'm sure they all have shades of gray. And work on doing your shading with those. It takes some practice. You have to, learn to put down a smooth light blend with those, and that is not a tutorial that I will ever do. That is not my thing. I am clumsy at best with Copics, even though I use them. Okay, so I think I'll put a little bit more color here on the top of this just to set this off a bit. Just looked so lonely out there alone. So something like this, I think, for the shading. And then find my tortillon box. Well, the good news is I can always find them. The bad news is they're not any easier to get to. So this is a cool little paper stump. If you'll notice, it has the point at each end, but it is very, very tiny and thin. So this is the paper stump alternative to a tortillon, which is very small or can be very small and delicate. And like I have mentioned to you guys before, I actually prefer the way the paper stumps are constructed, because the tips don't get pushed in on these, and because they're solid all the way from tip to tip. And they have double-sided tips, which is nice, and they're sturdier than tortillons. They don't bend as easily. So just something to think about. But you almost always get these little things in the big sets of, or maybe not big sets, but in the sets of paper stumps. Those variety bags you get. That was probably a little bit too much graphite. But I figure since it's grayed out for you guys anyway. So anyway, this is FLEAVY. Isn't that cute? I cannot wait to put this in a tile. So let's get started. Okay. So I actually had a couple of thoughts about FLEAVY, about what to do with my tile. And I know, more than one thought. It's amazing. The first thing I thought I might try was to put a heart-shaped string in here and do my FLEAVY in a heart shape. And that's definitely a doable thing. But as I was drawing the step out, it also occurred to me that this tangle might be fun to just play with in sort of a string way. Sort of, I was thinking I would just put down some fun strings and then direct my FLEAVY line with the string line. And so let's see what happens if I do that. I don't make promises. I don't promise myself I won't have to do these again. And I don't want to be too complex with it, and I want to leave myself some room. So maybe more room than this. So I think maybe I will bring this like this, and one side or the other will definitely have some overlap with this. I don't know how this is going to turn out. We are going to find out. All right, so I'm going to start with this loop here in the center and see what happens. This may be too difficult. I know I can do this. That isn't my concern. My concern is whether or not I can make this where you guys can do it. I think I can. No, I don't want to do this. This begs too many questions, and it's not a good thing for beginners, and I can think of several reasons why not to do that. However, I'm going to lift my string line here. I think I'm going to go back to my heart plan. Because that's how we roll here. I always reserve the right to change my mind. I think that's why God made me female, so I would have that prerogative. That and the creative gene, they work very well together. All right, let's do this way. And do this rather wonky over here. All right. So what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to draw in my heart line all the way around. It's going to be a reasonable facsimile of that, generally. All right, and now I'm going to start with my FLEAVY shapes, my little fluxy, leafy shapes. And because I tried this in my sketch pad earlier, I'm going to tell you now that as tempting as it is to start at the tip here with your little leaf shapes, it's better if you leave the tip blank of those and start that further up. Not because the leafy parts are the problem, it's the aura lines that end up causing you issues down there. And I'm going to try not to get them too close together, so I have plenty of room to work out. I am also going to avoid putting them over here too close to this. Again, the aura lines will need room to make this turn. But I'm going to keep pointing them down towards the bottom so they're all going in the same direction. And I'll go for one more set right here. Now, it's time for auras. And I will try my best think I just discovered another issue with my plan, but we're not going to worry about it right now. I think I've got some room down there if we want to expand here. Now again, this is where I have my issues. You want to make sure, coming in here, that you are pointing these straight towards the next side, and that you're not curving in like I did on that one, so that it looks like this line continues while it goes beneath or behind these little fluxy elements. So you can see why having those down at the tips is not the best plan. I'm not saying it can't be done, but with the turn and the auras and that going on at the same time, it's a bit much. Again, what I'm striving for that I frequently do not get is consistency. That one line looks like the one in front and behind it, and that can be difficult sometimes. Okay, now I'm going to do my aura on the inner track. Right there. All right, so that's my first round. So let's add some more petal shapes, or some more leaf, or some more flux shapes, teardrop shapes. And if you want to have some fun with these shapes, go for it. The only thing that really needs to happen with these is they need to be sticking out a little bit. Other than that, you can pretty much do as you wish. And conceptually, the sticking out little parts is very similar to the tangle we did spines by Heidi K. Oops, did those already, so it's time for the auras. Okay, so for those of you who shake, do this with me. Take a deep breath in, let it out, hold, and start your stroke. Not sure that's working for me. Deep breath in, out, and hold. It's definitely not working for me. Don't listen to me, guys. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to go back to not breathing and holding my breath and see how that goes. I'm just teasing. I just cannot seem to get these consistent at all. But I'm not going to give up, guys. I'm going to practice what I preach, which means do what I tell you. Maybe I just need to relax a little bit and quit worrying about my outcome. But it seems to be happening in that same place, so it must be something to do with the curve and the direction, and I don't know. All right. Well, I'm pretty disappointed in this. I'm not going to lie to you. But we're going to do the outer aura and see where we're at that point, and then we'll figure it out from there. So that goes much better if I pull down there. It may just be that I need to pull down today, period. Because you guys, if you've been watching me, you know that usually when I push out with my stroke, I do a much better job, but that is not the case for me today. So I want to encourage you guys that if you need to change that up on a particular day for shaking, then do that. Okay. Is this... Did I just hook this up to the wrong place? I don't know. If not, we'll know soon enough. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop there. Okay, so now, I think I'm going to go ahead and put one more row on here, at least, for the outside. And of course, the problem I just had is a good illustration of why you want those lines to stop and start, and pay attention to that, so that they are stopping and starting directly across from each other. Okay, now here I'm going to stop this one right here and not put any more on, and I can do that. I can do that anywhere I want. Okay, so I'm just going to continue this aura so nobody will know. Now I'm going to pull towards me around this corner here. Remember to just keep turning your tile so that you have a nice consistent stroke. So now I have a problem here too, don't I? Well, there we go. Just like that, I'm going to finish. Okay, so now I am going to give into my need to put my little flux lines in here. And add a dot if I have room. Oh, we forgot our last aura out on the outside, didn't we? At least I did. I forgot my outer aura, so we'll be coming back in here and doing that here in just a second. I'm getting very wiggly organic lines here in the centers, and that's going to have to be okay with me today. Sometimes things mesh for you, sometimes they don't. Notice here that this is a very cool line here, how these fluxes are turning out. And so part of the fun of this pattern is the fact that you can make those lines wavy or curvy or do whatever you want. I woke up this morning shaking really badly. And I know some of you know how I'm feeling. So I'm going to add this aura on the outer line, and then we'll reassess. Well, I'm not going to lie, I'm disappointed with my lines today. So I'm going to have to get creative on what I can do to sort of bring this mess together, because counting on the lines alone is not going to do it today. And if I wasn't so preachy to you guys, I would probably trash this tile and start it again. But I am preachy. And I like to believe. Really, I did it again, didn't I? I would like to believe that I live by what I say. So I'm going to suck it up and figure out a way to deal with this. All right. Yeah, I'm not so happy with this. Not happy at all. Okay, so the question now becomes, what can I do to make this work, even though the line work is kind of yucky? And I'm going to start by doing what I normally do in situations like this, is start where I'm not happy with my line work, and that is starting by doing some line weight and rounding. So I'm going to round in on the edges of these where they're sort of stuck out, and I'm not putting any more aura lines in. And I'm just going to round those edges just a little bit. I'm also going to come in here and do a tiny bit of rounding or line weight here. Now I'm not doing much rounding here in the inner part, just a tiny bit. All right. And just a little bit helps. I may regret this. And I may end up recording this again. I do not know, but we're going to try this. All right. Okay, so this is all I'm doing right now. Is I'm weighting this outer line just a little bit. I hope it's just a little bit. When we start getting big clumps, that's when I'm in trouble. And I am rounding these little FLEAVY leaves. Hanny makes great names for tangles. I was on her blog site earlier today looking at some of them, and I just sort of went shopping on there for one. I had intended to do, what other one? I Can Too, which is a tangulation of the Zentangle pattern Acanthus, or Acanthus, or Acanthus. Not sure. It starts with an I. That's all I know. So, yeah. Not having a lot of luck up here. Like this. I think by darkening the outer edges of this, it's going to really emphasize the heart shape, and we'll see how the rest of this goes. I try not to get my hopes up too high either way, so I'm not too frustrated if things don't go well. But I also do myself a disservice by expecting things not to go well. And yeah, I need to work on that, seriously work on that, because that is an issue. That whole negative self-fulfilling prophecy thing. A lot of you know what I'm talking about. When you are negative about the outcome of something and all you can think is negative, 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 and then at some point your attitude about it affects the outcome. And so that's something that I work hard not to do, and something that is a natural inclination for me. So I think that has to do with partially being a perfectionist. But the expecting the bad stuff isn't a perfectionistic thing. That is a self-esteem thing, I think. And so I need to really try hard not to let self-esteem and how I feel about myself, how I feel about my art, determine the outcome in a negative way. And I think some of you are going to know what I mean by that. If you haven't been on this artistic journey for very long, then you may not have come up against this yet, except that I believe that this idea that I can't do something because I'm, not good enough, not qualified, have shaky hands, whatever my reason for that day is. I need to stop that and allow my artistic creations to be what they want to be without my planning their demise, my planning their death, if you will. I'm not planning to throw stuff away, so I'm not expecting a poor outcome. So, something to think about. And keeping in mind that I only preach this stuff because I need to hear that stuff myself. These are issues that I myself have and struggle with on a daily basis. And I know that they're fairly common, so I know that some of you struggle with these too. Some of you may be ultimately self-confident, and for that I think that's wonderful. Unfortunately, the majority of people don't get to our age groups successfully without having self-doubt and those kinds of things be part of our lives, and or at least overcoming them maybe. So try not to dismiss your art before you even get started. Try not to plan that it's going to be terrible before you get started. Now, some of the things I'm doing here are going to help me, some may not. But let's wait. Wait till we get to the end and judge the outcome once we've finished it. I have been hearing from a lot more of you guys on Instagram. I think that's wonderful. Somebody, was it Lorianne, said that she still hadn't been able to figure out how to message me, and I won't lie, I have trouble remembering how to access my direct messages. It's on your home feed, I think, and not from within your profile that you can access the direct messages. And so that it's a little like paper airplane thing up at the top of your home feed on Instagram, so that might or might not help you find it, I don't know. So without intentionally doing so, I got one of my little inside the inside the lines thing happening here at the bottom. And that's all right. Okay, make sure I've got all my rounding done. I'm a bit happier with the lines now. Not that the lines are any straighter, but perhaps what I did distracts a little bit from them. I don't know. Let's put some shading in and see if we can distract things further. What is this called? Obfuscation. It's a good word, meaning we're hiding our flaws. All right. So since my lines are messier on the right than the left, I am shading on the right today. Hopefully, by the time we get the shading in, the rest of it will sort of take care of itself. And since I'm using a gray tile today, I can bring my white charcoal pencil in. That's going to be fun. Okay. And again, if you use too much graphite, you can always use an eraser to lift that out. You can also use a kneaded eraser. That is where the eraser is soft and pliable, and you can work it in your hands until you can shape it the way you want. Still, though, even in that eventuality, I don't get as good a job done as I do with my Mono Zero eraser from Tombow. So, that's worth whatever it's worth. You can take it or leave it. That tiny eraser does come in very handy, though. I think everybody who has gotten one is like, yeah, I can't believe I made it without this before. So I shaded on this side, so we'll go up some on this side. We'll see how that goes when we blend it out. I may change my mind on this. Again, you will not learn shading from me. I am a terrible shader. I have my moments where I get things right. I've learned everything I know from Annie Oken. And if you guys really are interested in learning shading, if you really want to be an artist, learn from her. Join art club. Get a lot of art instruction for about $25 a month, or $35, or however much it is now. But it's a good deal. It's online. She does live classes. And just go to her website and look at all of the lessons she has out. You can buy them singly. And I promise you there will be at least one there, if not a whole bunch, that really attract you. All right, let's shade some of this, blend some of this out and see where we're at. Okay. I may lift some of this out with the eraser, just a little bit. Okay. So I'm from what I'm getting here, from the look I'm getting here, I'm really liking the deep shading on the inside of the little V, and just a little bit on the outside. And I'm going to lift some of this back out, of course. But yeah, I like that heavy on the inside, heavy and dark on the inside, and then just a thin little area on the outside. And then, depending on the size of your little flux shapes, you can shade those too individually if you like, which I did not leave enough room on there for much, but I will probably hit a few of those. Shading makes a big difference on this. It makes it much more dynamic, much more interesting. Really pops out the 3D quality in it. Oh yeah, I know what I can do here to sort of bring this all together. Okay, so now I'm going to add a tiny bit of shading on the bottoms of these fluxes that are large enough to take it. Some of them are already going to have graphite bleed from the other areas, and so won't need any. If you do just the base, and we can keep the tips light, we can come in with our charcoal pencil and just tap a little bit on the end of those. That'll look good. Some of these are going to be so small that a lot of shading isn't going to do anything. And if I were working on these and making them tiny, and I was using a toned tile of some kind, tan or gray, then I could put a tap of white jelly roll on the tip and sort of spread it out with an aqua brush. If you've never done that, that's another thing you can do to get some highlighted areas without going crazy. All right. So now, Tombow Mono Zero. This is my Tombow Mono Zero eraser. If you watch me much, you see me use this all the time. I actually managed to get pretty far in this project this year without using it, so that was pretty impressive for me. Okay. There we go. Just want to leave a little space here. I'm keeping the shading on that right up close. Okay, so now I think I want to add some shading still, and I'm going to put some along this side of this, wait, if I'm shading that side, let me think about this. I messed myself up by shading on the side on the opposite side from where I normally do, and that's got me all turned around. So if I did this, then I would want to shade along this side. So let's do, and then come out. Okay, let's try blending this out. See if this is useless or if it works. Well, I thought about leaving a little gap here where the shadow comes, but I think I'm going to come back in with my pencil and get it in closer to the line here. So now I'm going to start with my white charcoal pencil, and I'm going to start at the apex of these heart curves on the sides. And I'm just going to lay down a little bit of this colored, this white charcoal pencil. And then I'm going to spread it on just sort of in the middle of these sections, where you don't have the FLEAVY shapes, the little leafy shapes. Okay, and then so after I've shaded in here, so on the side directly underneath these, I'm going to put a little bit more white charcoal and highlight. This is just going to accentuate the sort of multiple layer quality of these little leaves sticking out. Oh yeah, that's pretty. Just smooth a little bit in here and take the clean edge of this little paper stump and smooth this out a little bit. Well, I like the way my little FLEAVY heart turned out, despite the despair I had with my lines at the beginning. I frequently forget when I'm freaking out about stuff like that, by the time you end up shading and highlighting and all the other stuff that you're going to be doing for these, then so much of the stuff that has got me all wound up and upset is gone from view by the time I finish everything, which is why I tell you guys, don't give up on your tiles before you get even started. Okay, so now this is becoming a little bit more interesting. And I have some possibilities that I can do. I can add some sort of organic things. I could put some zingers in and out. I could put muka or, well, there's a ton of them. Any of those organic types of tendril tangles would work well in here. And flux might be interesting in here. What if I did that in a gray color? You guys know how I feel about flux. What if I did that with a gray jelly roll? I'm thinking let's do it, because I'm a wild and crazy guy. Sorry, had to have a Steve Martin moment. Is this the warm gray or the cool gray? Do my little gray test here. That's actually pretty dark. This is the warm gray, I think. Actually, I think this will work pretty well. I think that's enough of a different shade that I'm going to get a better look with the lighter looking one. So I'm going to use this one. This is my sort of medium light warm gray. And do I really want to put flux in here? Because that's going to be a lot. Do I want to draw an aura in for separation? I don't know the answer to that. I'm just going to go for it. With no aura, I know better than that. I'm going to put an aura in because I know better than this. I know I've said it before, but the reason that you want to add an aura for separation, when you put a fill into something like this, and particularly when the pattern itself is line rich, which this one certainly is, you want to have some separation between your pattern and the fill. And the best way to do that is to add an aura on the inside of whatever you're going to fill between that and your other work. That way they don't get so mixed up with each other. I actually like this inner aura. I think it looks good. Now let's stick some flux in here. Now I don't have anybody's voice in my head going, bad idea, Cindy, bad idea. Because I don't need that, because I have that at home. Well, we've come this far, we're going to have to finish it out, aren't we? Well, my pen has decided to stop. This is going to be extremely irritating. Come on. It wasn't even going over anything. There it is. There it is. A little tapping sometimes will get you where you want to go. wasn't excited about this fill until just now. Yeah, add a little white charcoal here and there, and this is going to really be awesome, I hope. Maybe some shading. So I had some comments letting me know that it was 100 in more places, 100 degrees outside in more places than just where I am. I had one from New Hampshire saying it had been 100 degrees there. What the heck? What the heck is New Hampshire doing that hot? Is this typical for you guys? 100 degrees. I always thought the Northeast was not as hot as Central America is. Not Central America. The Midwest or the Southwest in the United States. I mean, Arizona I get, and Texas I get, but I don't get New Hampshire. So they must be having a tough year up there. And I found in my travels that a lot of places where the weather isn't normally hot like it is in the Southwest don't have air conditioning the way that we do. And oh my God, that's awful. I know I was in Germany one year when they had, I think I was visiting at that point, and they had a heat wave. And there was no air conditioning there. And it was the most miserable 3 weeks of my life. Because Cindy does not live without air conditioning when it's hot. And it's not spoiled, it's just survival. Okay, so all the way around here where my aura is, then I've encroached just a bit on that line with my gray pen, and so it's not quite as crisp and dark as it was. So I'm going to redraw that line. And you can see, like in this area, it's very obscured. It's all right, baby. So I'm just going to crisp up this line a little bit with some extra ink. Another thing that I really like about using these micron PNs is that I do not have the trouble going over other media like gel ink that I have with the 01s. And there's nothing wrong with the 01s. I'm just saying that that is one of the issues that you can have with 01 is that, oh, Cindy, stop trying to fix things, bud. Sigh. Now I sound like my kid. All right. All right. So I'm not hating that. I think in order to make that a little more interesting, I'm going to put some shading in there. And sort of get some interest here. A little depth will help. What I don't want is for it to be so interesting in here that you lose the FLEAVY frame. But I don't think, without the dark ink in here, I don't think that will happen. Let's blend a little bit of this and see how we did. That was kind of a big glop, wasn't it? Yes. I definitely think I'm going to shade in here. it won't need the heavy treatment that I normally give it, although that's going to be hard for me to not give it that treatment because I love that dense, sort of interesting look that it gets. But some depth down here at the bases is really going to help this to pop out. And a few more finishing touches. I think I may lift out my graphite around the frame, although that's not a big deal for me usually. I don't know. We'll think about it. I'm also considering some dots of jelly roll on here, but I'm still haven't decided if that wouldn't be too much because of the grayed out effect that we're using here. And I probably want to put a little bit more graphite around the edge here. So much for my shading scheme earlier, huh? That's gonna be all right though. All right, let's blend the rest of this out. I don't want to gray it out so much that I can't see what I drew in here. But I think I'm all right. Okay, so now that I've got some graphite in here, and it is a bit more dynamic, I'm going to come back through with my white charcoal pencil, and I'm going to just brighten the tips of these ever so much, and I'm also going to try to get into these orbs, but I don't know if this is going to be enough or if it will just be subtle enough to be perfect. So we're going to do that on this one side and see how that brings us forward. If I can't get the orbs to poke up a little bit here with the charcoal, then I will come in with my jelly roll and dot that in, but the bright white on that might overwhelm what we've done in here. So I'm going to try this first and see where we go from there. It does help. Okay. Let's zoom out just a little bit and take a look at this. Well, I don't hate it. Definitely not my favorite thing we've done, but I'm gonna go for it. I think it's okay. Again, not my favorite thing, but the last thing I think I'm gonna do on this is lift out my string line on the border. I didn't need it today, and I feel like it distracts from the pattern shape. So I'm just gonna lift those out here at the corners where they show. It's not a huge deal, but I just feel like it looks dirty in places, and so I think that might help me feel like it's cleaner. All right, so this is where I'm going to leave you today. I may not be just thrilled with this tile, but that's okay. It's not always going to be that way. One thing I did forget to do was to brighten these up a bit. All right, guys, this is it. This is day 98 of the 100 Days of Zentangle Project 2020. This is FLEAVY by Hanny Waldburger. And I just hope that you guys have enjoyed this project. We have 2 more days to do, day 99 and day 100. And I hope that you've enjoyed this journey that we've been on. I'm still going to be here when we get done, so don't worry. And we're going to find some other stuff to get up to that's just as much fun, or maybe even more. So I'll see you tomorrow for day 99. Oh my gosh. 99, guys. See you tomorrow.